Hey guys, it's your weather girlie Shania, and welcome to my podcast, Shania Beyond the Sky, where I explore and discover all things meteorology and earth science. Today is Weather Wednesdays, and we are going to take a look at hurricanes. In November of 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit our forested property near the Delaware River in New York. We had thought that since we lived a couple of hours inland and over 1,000 feet higher than sea level, we were fairly safe. We have always made some preparations in case of emergencies, but we had a lot to learn about being ready for a situation like this. We knew the storm was approaching quickly and it was going to be severe. We had waterproof canoeing go bags ready, and we had a 625-gallon above ground water storage tank and a good non-electric water purification system. Even our dog had his saddlebags packed with his food and supplies. But we were not prepared for the intensity of the storm. Bugging out was not an option, at least by car. When the storm hit, the winds kept getting stronger. Just when we thought that it was as bad as it could get, the wind picked up even more. Trees blew down and ripped out the power lines to our house. The circuit breaker box exploded. Several large conifers fell on top of our house, partially crushing our roof. Our daughter was watching the storm just as the wind hit and a huge tree blew down and landed directly on the roof of her room. An old garden trellis made from large timbers took the brunt of the force and probably saved her life. We gathered the kids to the center of the little house as far from the windows as we could get. We had a few battery-powered LED lanterns lit because the power was out. Trees and downed power lines blocked our street, so we had to shelter in place and tough it out. I think there might have been a tornado along with the hurricane because some trees were twisted in half and not just blown down in one direction. Once the storm passed, we had to assess the damage. No one was hurt, thankfully. We made sure the propane tank was shut off and every appliance was unplugged. Clearing the driveway and property of downed trees and debris took several days. We had no intention of clearing the roads of trees. It was too dangerous since the power lines crisscrossed everywhere. We were able to check in on our neighbors and offer what assistance we could. We had to stay in the house since the roads were impassable and dangerous. Since we have a private well and use an electric well pump, we had no running water. We had plenty of fresh water in our water tank. Fortunately, and every drop of water we consumed went first through our countertop purification system. After the house was rebuilt and the storm was mostly behind us, we made lists of things that we could have done better. The first thing we did was to make a plan in case we got separated. Perhaps next time an emergency struck, we might not all be at home. We planned where we could meet and who we might call for information. Over the next couple of years, we invested a wood-burning stove and a generator that could run on either gasoline or propane. Gasoline was scarce for weeks after the storm and rationed. 20-pound propane tanks were available though. We also built a battery bank for backup power. Several deep cycle batteries connected to a power inverter. So we had two power sources. We now all keep a pair of jeans and sturdy slip-on shoes next to our bed so we are ready to go in 5 minutes flat. A few other changes we made to our preparations. We got 2 camp-type toilets, emergency non-perishable foods like freeze-dried backpacking meals, MREs, canned foods, more lanterns, and extra batteries of all types. A good quality AM, FM, and weather radio that runs on either batteries, AC power, or a crank dynamo, and we doubled the size of our garden. Some 8 years later, we continue to improve our emergency preparations to refine our plans. There's just something about being underprepared the first time that just makes you be prepared the second time, because you never actually know the intensity or how bad it is until it actually happens. And this it goes for hurricanes because hurricanes is no joke. I have never been a victim or of like a massive, major, destructive hurricane. The only one I could remember that I have been through or experienced was Hurricane Irma. Can't remember what year it was though, but and that still wasn't so bad because nothing really happened more than well to my house except there was so much wind and cupboard door open and a glass fell out, like one singular glass. Yeah, it didn't really have much that I could say, and I am so grateful. I am so thankful that that's all I have to say. But it's actually very scary to experience these things, especially at a young age because I was young at the time, and I don't even know if I would have survived something that Bill from New York survived in 2012 with Hurricane Sandy. There's just something that, well, he learned his lesson. You never know how underprepared you are until it happens to you. So, one thing, imagine experiencing a hurricane and a tornado at the same time. Rain, wind, thunder, lightning. I seen on TV that people's houses their roof blown off, and I'm just so thankful that that never happened to my house. I mean, at times I thought the roof was going to blow off, but it didn't. And I'm so glad for that. And it is actually scary. The sound that the galvanized makes against the frame of the ceiling, I was like, it's just so crazy. And it's have those days in the hurricane season that a hurricane is not approaching, but there's just gloomy, overcast skies, and the wind just blows like for a good 2 minutes, and there's trees everywhere. It just seems like a scene out of a movie. But regardless, that's not what we are here to talk about. I want to talk about even though the hurricane, like surviving the hurricane, it might feel like the worst part. It probably is the worst part if you survive and your house is damaged. You're probably trapped in your city, your town for a while because of all the debris and trees and power lines that are in the ground. You can't go anywhere. Your car probably wrecked, and then you have to deal with the um, lack of electricity and um, no. If you have no gas, if you're not prepared enough, then surviving the aftermath is probably way more painful than the actual hurricane because the hurricane is there and then it passes after a while, but the aftermath will last longer than the hurricane. And this is why it's so important to always be prepared for things like these, even though it you think that it may never happen to you. But it's always good to have emergency prepare kits and strategies because as he said, next time it happens they might not all be at the same place at the same time. So you have to come up with people to like places to meet and people to get information from for each other, and still that might not be enough because your phone might not be working. That's why you need to have a battery powered radio because you need to find out the information if it's safe to go out there on the radio. You have to make sure you have enough food for the time that you don't even know how long you're gonna survive. You need to have food, and you maybe and you those documents that you have in your house, like those important documents, you have to make sure those are in um secure places, because you may not think it's important, but those are very hard to replace. That's something people don't really talk about. Those are very hard to replace, and it's always good to make sure that they're in your emergency kit too, because you never know when you might need them. And as he said, he um created two power sources. He had a gasoline powered um generator, and then he created a inverter to get power, because power will be down for days. After my hurricane, power was down for like a day and a half, and yeah, and those things destroy appliances because the current might not stay off. Sometimes the current comes on, it comes off, it comes on, or it comes off. And I live in a place where two breeze blow and current cut off. I live in a rural area, so this might be understandable. But he also emphasized on like doubling the size of his garden, because and I, I was thinking, you're gonna double the size of a garden. Well, I mean, in the preparation of the hurricane and everything, hopefully it has fruit or vegetables or whatever you're going to harvest, but you're gonna double the size of your garden and a hurricane gonna come and mash it up. But these are food though. So, fresh water is something very important to have during a hurricane, and you have to know how you're using this water. And he had a 625-gallon no, store water storage system tank. Not everybody has that. In my country, well, we have tanks and stuff like that, so that's good. But in other countries, not everybody is going to have a water. Sometimes most people, and even in my country too, they take water directly from Wasa, but mm, that's not always the case. You need to make sure you have your water there, and then those who use pumps, you need it don't gonna work without that water not gonna come unless you have current. So I always make sure you have fresh, clean drinking water, and make sure that you have a first aid kit in order to deal with wounds and whatever cuts you have and stuff like that. These are important things to put in your emergency. And then he said that he always kept a sturdy pair of shoes next to his bed and a pair of jeans and clothes so that he could get ready in 5 minutes. He became paranoid because of this, because of him being underprepared the first time. So he wants to make sure that this never happens again. It's very traumatizing. It really is. And this is not something that's talked about enough with survivors. Well, that's wrap for this podcast today. Stay tuned for next week's Weather Wednesday episode and look out for more daily weather updates every single day. Follow my Instagram at ShaniaBeyondTheSky_ and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that you can be a part of this little community.